Well, hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Star Trek Prodigy, episode 16 of season 1 called Preludes. This episode to me felt a little bit like it was the episode we should have got maybe around episode 5 or something. It was basically the backstory episode. So it was all about our main characters and how they got to Tars Lamora. So this episode, even though it was interesting, I felt like it felt like a little bit of a backstep episode this week. Apart from the Chakotay bit and the bit with the Diviner and Essentia or the Vindicator, that felt like it was new information. But the stuff with our crew kind of going over their sort of backstories and so forth, it to me it felt a little bit like this is stuff we should have known back in around episode 5 or something like that. It sort of felt like we've gotten beyond that sort of level of character info now that we're at episode 16. So it kind of feels a little bit late to me to be doing this sort of stuff. But I guess, better late than never. And quite a lot of information about Chakotay's mission and what he was doing with the Protostar. So that aspect of this episode I thought was really good. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please don't be scared to do so. Been a bit of a lull in the old subscription department lately, so I'd appreciate anybody who happens to be watching my videos, if you can click on that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and the YouTube algorithm and everything help drive the channel and all that sort of stuff. So please click on that subscribe button to stay up to date and current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So the episode starts with Janeway listening to a bit of Chopin and going through the names of our Protostar crew, getting to know a bit more about them. And at the same time, we've got the Protostar crew doing repairs. The Protodrive obviously got hit by that photon torpedo from the Dauntless, and they've been doing repairs ever since to try to get that back up and running so they can leave the neutral zone. And we get into Rok-Tahk's backstory first. Rok-Tahk, of course, was an arena fighter. Kind of the whole stuff with Rok-Tahk and the hero doing this sort of battle in an arena. My first thoughts were the scene from the Thor movie where we had, Thor fighting against the Hulk in the arena there on that planet. It sort of felt like one of those sort of almost like a, superhero origin story kind of moments, I suppose, much like, Tobey Maguire doing the cage fight, as Spider-Man. We've got the, Thor versus the Hulk in the arena battle. That sort of gist, I guess, that sort of vibe it kind of, spoke to me. And it sort of became apparent that this hero that Rok-Tahk was working with was a bit of a scam artist. They were kind of making this big kind of story arc, doing a lot of theatrics to sort of, I guess, scam people out of their money and make them believe there was this sort of big fancy arena battle where it was just a bit of smoke and mirrors. I guess a bit like, wrestling tends to be. It's a bit of smoke and mirrors for entertainment. And then obviously the routine goes from a sort of arena battle scenario to more of a, I guess, a comedic vaudevillian style slapstick routine, kind of like the old days of silent film, kind of, whether it's Charlie Chaplin or Laurel and Hardy or whatever, that sort of thing, which sort of entertained the crowd. But the hero didn't like that very much, so he basically sold Rok-Tahk off into slavery to Tars Lamora. Meanwhile, with Zero, his backstory, it was him and a bunch of other Medusan floating gas entities just sort of floating around the place. Ended up being trapped in a box, captured by Kazon, who were all wearing visors, the same that Spock wore in the original series episode, where he wore the special red visor to protect him from the Medusan so that they didn't go crazy and all that sort of thing. So it was nice to see a little bit of continuity there in terms of the visual protection department against Medusans, and then him obviously being captured and sold to the Diviner. Again, these little backstory moments were fine, but not mind-blowingly captivating, I sort of found, at this particular point we are at in the show. But what I did find interesting is the backstory stuff we got about the Diviner and also Essentia in terms of their role and what happened with the Federation, making first contact with their world, how that all kind of went wrong and devolved into a big Civil War kind of style event, and then obviously the Protostar showing up with Chakotay and them trying to capture it. There's like a temporal rift thing going on, and they wanted to, basically Chakotay kind of got his ship captured from him. The people of Solemn or whatever, the Vau N'Akat, send a whole bunch of ships through to find the Protostar to undo the damage the exposure to the Federation, I guess, did to their society. And they send a whole bunch of different kind of operatives through. Obviously, the Diviner being one, and the Vindicator, aka Ensign Essentia, being the other. So it was good to see a few flashback scenes here that we'd kind of seen a little bit of before in some security footage and everything, but this time we got the kind of the full scene with Chakotay and everything, with, you know, lines of dialogue and what happened with him being captured and whatnot. And it seems like Chakotay's first officer was a Aurelian, who we saw recently in episodes of Lower Decks, or could be even Dr. Miglimo's race, who is yet to be named on Lower Decks as well, but another avian base race. So that was all interesting stuff. I thought how that all kind of played out. That was probably the most interesting part of this episode that I found, that the backstory of the Vau N'Akat and also Chakotay's mission as well. And then we get the Jankom Pog backstory, which is, you know, him on the Tellarite sleeper ship, being woken up to effect some repairs, basically talking with this droid Boxy, going through all the different systems, repairing stuff. It was a little bit tedious, I kind of found. You had him repairing all manner of systems on the ship and going from one to the other and everything. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, okay, you know, we kind of get it. It took a while to sort of get through all the different things he had to repair, but beyond the first couple, I mean, it didn't really add that much to his character, I found. It was, you know, it was humorous in places, but the backstory stuff with the kids didn't really grab me all that much. Jankom ended up being ejected off the ship by choice because there wasn't going to be enough air for the rest of the Tellarite sleeper people to breathe, I guess, after he'd huffed and puffed all of the air out of the ship. He went off in like an escape pod or a shuttle and ended up getting himself captured by some Kazon and then therefore sold to the Diviner at Tars Lamora. By the end of the episode, we kind of get the proto drive repaired. The kids can now move on. They don't have to hang out in the neutral zone anymore. So they're off to somewhere else. Now, we did get a little reference at the end of this episode to Captain or Admiral Janeway's dog Molly, which got referenced in the Voyager episode Shattered, where you know, Janeway talked about her dog Molly being runt of the litter. Molly was an Irish setter. We obviously get another reference to Janeway's you know, lovable pet left behind when she went to the Delta Quadrant and so forth. So it was a nice little link back to Janeway's history in this episode with the reference to her old dog. And then at the end of the episode, we obviously have Janeway coming in and springing Essentia or the Vindicator and the Diviner for being in cahoots and everything. She gets knocked out cold, and that's where we leave it for the end of the episode as to what's going to happen with Admiral Janeway now that their passengers have been uncovered in terms of what they're up to and so forth. So there's, it'd be interesting to see what happens on board the Dauntless next week, because we've got Janeway being obviously held a prisoner. Look, all in all, I didn't mind this episode. I didn't love this episode. It wasn't the best episode we've had in this second group of season 1 episodes so far. It was good to get a bit of resolution on Chakotay's character and mission and everything, and the Protostar and what that was up to, and a bit more backstory about the Vau N'Akat and what happened with them 50 years in the future. So that was really interesting exposition, and there was a lot of exposition in this episode. Probably could have maybe trimmed that back a little bit. I don't know whether we necessarily needed quite so much detail on all of the kids, you know, where they were and how they ended up on Tars Lamora and everything, or if this information had have been got out. I think it probably should have been done, certainly in the first 10 episodes of this season, and it sort of feels a little bit late to be coming back to that kind of info now. But anyway, it is what it is. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section, guys. Leave a comment and let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. If you happen to miss the huge 35% off Black Friday sale that I had in the merch store, fret not. There is one last sale to be had in my merch store before Christmas. If you head over there now until Sunday, the 4th of December, you can pick yourself up a bargain, 15% off plus free shipping. So you get the 15% off discount plus shipped free to you wherever you happen to be. This is the very last sale in the merch store before Christmas, and your last chance to pick up a bargain for 15% off plus free shipping as well. So be sure to take advantage of that. Guys, I will be back soon with my next video, and I will catch you then.